Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this evening. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel bottom right hand corner. So on the show this evening, we're going to be talking about Manchester United's new CEO and director of football. There has been a story come out in the last couple of hours pretty much all but confirming who those two people will be, and ultimately saying that John Murtough and Richard Arnold will be on their way out of Manchester United if Sir Jim Ratcliffe gets the 25% stake in the club, which we are expected to be announced in the coming weeks. So, of course, we'll be talking about that. We'll be reacting. We'll get you guys' opinions. We'll also be talking about Saudi January transfer madness with a number of players apparently being approached by clubs in Saudi ahead of the January transfer window. Really, really crazy, that one, actually. There's about 2 or 3 players that apparently are set to receive bids in January. So, of course, we'll talk about that. We'll also be doing a bit of a preview for the game tomorrow against Copenhagen. I'm not going to do a dedicated video for it. I'm just going to kind of mix it into this show together. So we will talk about the Copenhagen game tomorrow. As always, get involved in the live chat, get involved in the comment section, and let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. And first of all, I want you to let me know what your score predictions are for the Copenhagen game. So get in the comment section, let me know what the score is going to be, who do you think is going to score the goals and stuff, and then we can all look back on it after the game and see who got it right. So let's start off with this story about the new CEO and new director of football. So we've got 2 or 3 different people in the UK this afternoon saying that Paul Mitchell could soon be announced as the Manchester United sporting director when Sir Jim Ratcliffe takes over the club. So we know that Paul Mitchell is the number 1 target. I would say, to be honest with you, out of all the people that are available at the moment, I would say that he's probably is the best option for me personally. If anybody's unaware who he is, obviously he was at Monaco, he was at Tottenham, he was at Southampton. He's discovered people like Konate, Trippier, Son, Dele Alli, Tadic, Conrad Lema, and Cuckoo. Like he's discovered some really, really good players in his time. He's still very, very young. People like Sadio Mane as well. Obviously, I forgot about him. Toby Alderweireld, all sorts of good players over his kind of 10 years at the top. He started at Southampton, then went over to Tottenham, was at Monaco for a bit, at Red Bull Leipzig alongside Ralf Rangnick. So he is the real deal, I think. And I think he would be exactly the kind of person we need to come in and really, really help rebuild Manchester United, really. I still think that we need to rebuild. I don't think that we're anywhere near our current squad. I'm not talking about playing style. I'm not talking about the manager. I'm 100% sure, in my opinion, that Erik ten Hag's the right man for the job. I have no doubt about that. I think that literally, by way of playing squad, I reckon we still need a huge rebuild. I really, really do believe that. And I think it's absolutely essential that we have someone like Paul Mitchell here to be able to oversee this rebuild alongside Erik ten Hag. Because I think if Erik ten Hag's just continually given random bits of money and gets his second, third, fourth choice targets every time, I honestly think that we'll just fail. So I'm really, really excited about this. Obviously, Qatar isn't going to happen. Anybody who still wants Sheikh Jassim, obviously that's fine. You know that I want Sheikh Jassim. You know that he was my number 1 priority for United. That's not going to happen. Sky Sports put out a story this afternoon saying that Sheikh Jassim is 100% not coming back. Apparently, he says he'll still support Manchester United. He wishes the club well, but he was 100% not coming back to the table. So the Sheikh Jassim dream, the Qatar dream is over for those of you who wanted it. Those of you who wanted Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you have won. It will be announced very, very soon. And Sheikh Jassim is definitely not coming back. So all we can do now, right, is just get behind the team, get behind the players, get behind the manager, and just hope that what this new future under Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks like is better. That's all we can hope for, you know. Ratcliffe, obviously, for probably I'd say 90% of the fan base, wasn't the number 1 favourite. Everybody seemed to want Qatar because of what that deal involved, you know, clearing the debt, new stadium. The Glazers never wanted to sell 100%, so it's kind of irrelevant now, and we've just got to get behind it. Milas says Qatar is forgotten and let's move on. Yeah, that's it. You know, obviously it's frustrating. It's that one where it could have been, you know, it could have been great, but it's all could have been, should have been. You know, so yeah, there's not really much we can do about it now. We've just got to support the team, get behind the players, and hope that. And I hope that we see a positive change. Right, let's talk a little bit about the CEO as well. So in this same article, it says that breaking news, Jean-Claude Blanc is set to become the new CEO of Manchester United. So he would take John Murtaugh's job. He would take Richard Arnold's job and John Murtaugh's job would be taken by Paul Mitchell. So you're actually bringing in two really, really good football and sport specialists into those two top positions at Manchester United, because at the moment it's run by bankers. It's run by people who just are more focused on finance. Jean-Claude Blanc is a businessman initially. He's also a sports executive. He's helped with things like the what's it called? The cycling. I can't think of the name of it. What's it called? My brain's gone funny. The big cycling competition. He was one of the main people involved with that. He's obviously been part of the Formula One. He's been part of football, rugby. He's been involved in so many different things. And the moment he is employed by Ineos and Nice as kind of one of their sporting top people. So he's heavily involved in Nice this season. Obviously, Nice have had a really good season this year, which I think is interesting. He only joined a couple of months ago, I think. He's also been heavily involved in the New Zealand rugby team. He's done loads and loads of stuff, and I think that he's a massive upgrade on Richard Arnold, to be honest with you, because we all know that Richard Arnold, I'm sure he tries his best, but I just don't think he has the expertise and the experience to be able to manage the job that's at hand at a club like Manchester United. So I'm excited about Jean-Claude Blanc. I don't know a lot of him, but from the research that I've seen, Tour de France, that's the thing I was looking for. Thank you to the person in the chat who said that. But from what I've seen of this man, I think he is good. And I think he should be able to massively improve what's, let's be honest, being run absolutely terrible so far at Manchester United. Ashid says, I think the Qataris will return with an 11th hour bid. I don't think so, mate. I think the Qataris just realised that the Glazers don't want to sell. They never wanted to sell. It was all just a scam to get a value for the club. They've got the value. They now know what they can get on the market for it for 100%. They then used that to go back to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and said, we're not going to sell you 100%. We'll sell you 25% of the price that Sheikh Jassim offered. Do you see what I mean? And I think that Sheikh Jassim just got played the whole way through. He was just used to see what you could get for the club. They never wanted to sell. I think it's pretty obvious. Mila says, second choice again, like players, but Nice is top in France League. I hope Sir Jim Ratcliffe has now the experience to handle football clubs and doesn't mix different sports to get to the edge. The thing we have to remember, right, obviously we were all very critical of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but he is a Manchester United fan. He is from Manchester and all the rest of it. So I do just hope and I pray, that he does have our intentions in his heart. We know that he's doing it for his legacy. He's doing it for his own ego, I think, but that doesn't still mean that he doesn't want to succeed. I think he does still want to succeed. And, you know, bringing in Paul Mitchell, bringing in Jean-Claude Blanc from the beginning, I think it's a positive start. I'm not going to sit here and be singing masses of praise because it might work, it might not work, but I will say this. It definitely would be better than John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold. That's 100%. We won't ever buy a player like Antony for 100 million again. We won't be buying people like Casemiro and Varane for 60 million when they're 30 and injury prone. Like, I think we'll really, really change our transfer policy. We'll probably start buying younger people. We'll try and start planning for the future. We'll try and look at players as more investments than people that are going to cost us 100 million. You know, we'll be buying 20, 30, 40 million pound players, I think. Like, you know, Jeremy Doku just went to Man City for, I think it was 60 million euros, and we just paid 100 million euros for Antony. That kind of sums it up for me. Scott says, I think you're right, Kieran. It was definitely a con. Yeah, I think the Sheikh Jassim thing was honestly just the Glazers trying to get a value for the club so they could then negotiate a smaller portion percentage with another buyer. I honestly think now, when I reflect on it, they never wanted to sell. If they wanted to sell, they would have just accepted the Qatari bid. They clearly didn't want to sell. You know, the Qataris made 5 offers in the end. They kept offering more and more and more and more, and nothing happened, and they didn't accept. So I think it's pretty obvious, you know. Scott says not just that, but also the amount that they pay in wages. Fred says, so you have to be clever not to buy Antony. I don't think clever's the right word. I think you have to be experienced not to buy Antony. I think you need to be somebody like Paul Mitchell, somebody who discovered people like Sadio Mane before they came to before he was at Southampton. Somebody who discovered Son. I mean, he discovered Son and brought him to Tottenham. He discovered people like Nkuku. He discovered people like Conrad Lamar. Like, we just buy players who are already well known on the world stage. We buy them from other big clubs when they don't want to sell them for inflated prices. That's always been our model. When was the last time, right, that we signed a player that you'd never heard of and they turned out to be world class? I can't remember. I genuinely can't. The only exception I can think of at the moment is Garnacho, and he's not world class. I think we bought him from Atletico Madrid's youth academy maybe 3 or 4 years ago for I think it was £500,000. That's the only player in this current squad that you can look at and say, you really discovered somebody there. You brought them through and you nurtured them. You know, all of the rest of them. Casemiro, he's probably past his prime. Varane's past his prime. Martinez was already in the Argentinian national team, so he wasn't exactly an unfound gem, was he? Who else have we got? Antony, again, he's in the Brazilian team. He was already in the Ajax team, like playing in the Champions League. None of these people were discovered from, I don't know, like Mitoma, getting them from the Japanese league. We don't do deals like that. And I think that bringing in someone like Paul Mitchell, who has a track record of finding these players before they've got their big move, I think that's exactly what we need. And I think that will then stop stuff like, that will stop stuff like spending stupid money on players like Antony. Antony might work out. I hope he does, I hope every single one of our players works out. I hope Maguire goes on to have an incredible season for the rest of the year. But we have to be realistic about things, don't we? Sometimes we can say, I want to get behind the player, I want this to happen, but in reality, it doesn't always happen like that. Fred says, how long do you think we'll have the debt for? I don't know, to be honest, mate, about the debt. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the debt. That's a little bit too ahead. I would imagine that the debt will remain until Sir Jim gets the whole 100% of the club. I don't think any of the debt will be cleared until he is in a position to buy all of the club, because at the moment, that's the Glazers' debt. That should be their responsibility to clear it. They're not going to clear it, so I think that we'll have to wait on that one. Everyone who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like. We've got over 300 of you watching already, so please smash a like. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't already. Chris says they were raw talent. It was the coaches that turned them into top draw. Maybe. I don't think you can say that every single one of them was raw talent and the only reason that they succeeded was because of the coaches. They were all good players that were discovered. I don't think Antony is on the level of, a Son or an Nkunku or one of those types of players, Antony at Ajax, he wasn't prolific, remember? It wasn't like he was banging in goals for fun at Ajax. I think he was... Let me just have a look at Antony's stats at Ajax. Like, I remember when I looked at the time, his stats weren't that great, and it very much was like, this is a player for the future, not a player for now, So Antony at Ajax in his final season before he moved to the Premier League. Let's have a quick look, because I think this is quite an important conversation to have. So where is he? There he is. Remember when we read out these stats, he cost us 100 million euros. So for 100 million euros, you expect somebody like a Neymar, somebody of that level. So the season before we bought him, he got... his stats were pretty good, actually. He got 22 goals and assists in 33 matches. Like, that's pretty decent. But, he got 2 goals in the Champions League, 4 assists in the Champions League in 7 matches. And then in the Eredivisie, he got 8 goals and 4 assists in 23 matches. So his stats were pretty good before he joined Manchester United, to be fair. But you got to think that was in that Ajax team that was literally unbelievable, winning the league, playing some absolutely crazy football under Erik ten Hag. If you go to the season before that, he got 20 goals and assists in 46 matches. So his record at Ajax was good, to be fair. Obviously, it wasn't incredible, but it was still good. Ginge says the debt won't ever be cleared. It's too high. Milis says in the chat that apparently Dortmund are beating Newcastle. That is interesting. I didn't know that. I probably will watch that after this is finished. How long's left of that game? All right, it's half time. Yeah, so, wow, that's crazy. So does that mean Newcastle will be knocked out of the Champions League if they lose this? Let's have a look quickly. I know this isn't a Newcastle channel, but somebody's just mentioned it in the chat, and I'm quite interested now. So let's have a look. Oh, no, they're not knocked out. They'll still be in it. Barcelona are losing to Shakhtar Donetsk as well. Wow. Anyway, let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. Chris says, Ajax were a quality team. We are just individuals. Yes, I agree. Kingfisher says, Sancho and Antony out. Take Maguire too and Lindelof. Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think Maguire at the moment, in the summer, I'd definitely sell him, but I think he deserves some respect, to be honest. I think Maguire's had such a hard time of it. Does he come out calling out the manager? No, he doesn't. He gets on with it. Yes, he's not great, but he's done quite well in Martinez's absence. So I'm not going to slag off Maguire. I think he's put in some good performances in the last kind of 3 or 4 games. I think he's looked all right. He's contributed. I think he's looked pretty solid in some ways. And I think the big games are like tomorrow, right? We need Maguire to go out tomorrow and absolutely command his defence. And those are the kind of moments that will make or break his Manchester United career. If we go and lose tomorrow to Copenhagen and Maguire makes a mistake, all of the good that he's done over the last 5 or 6 games will be forgotten. And maybe that's unfair, but he's already on thin ice with the Manchester United fan base. Everybody thought he should have gone in the summer. He decided to stay. He decided to fight for his place. He ended up being right because Martinez seems to now be injury prone and Maguire's now the first choice centre-back. But we really, really need to just hope that he goes out tomorrow. All of those players, the Maguires, the Mason Mounts, the Brunos, they need to go out tomorrow and play like it's their last ever game of football. Because if we lose tomorrow against Copenhagen, we're out of the Champions League, I think, effectively. If we win tomorrow, it's a completely different picture. We'd be on 6 points. I think we can expect Galatasaray to lose to Bayern away from home. We'd be on 6 points, second in the group. Bayern would be on 12, Galatasaray on 4, and Copenhagen would be on 1. Copenhagen would be effectively out of the competition unless an absolute disaster happens. So we would then obviously have to go and play Galatasaray away. As long as we didn't lose that game, if we drew, I think we would be okay. And then the final game of this, the qualifiers, the group stage, would be against Bayern Munich at home. At which point they'd already have, qualified into first place. So tomorrow is probably our biggest game of the season. I genuinely believe that. If we lose tomorrow, it is almost impossible to go through. If we win tomorrow, I think I have a quiet bit of confidence that we'll qualify if we win the game tomorrow and Galatasaray lose against Bayern. But let me know what your score predictions are. I'm going to go for 2-1 Manchester United tomorrow. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I think it's going to be a difficult game. And I think it's going to be one that's not going to be a cricket scoreline. It's going to be very tight. I think it's going to be one where the players are really going to have to show some character. I'm talking, the Brunos, the Rashfords. I want all of these people to have an amazing game. I want Rasmus to get a goal against his old club, Copenhagen. And I really, really want us to all be celebrating tomorrow night. I'm just checking what time the kickoff is. Is it an early kickoff? Because let me just double check. No, it's 8 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Okay, cool. Right, let's move on to this story about the Saudi League then. So there's a couple of stories coming out this afternoon. The first one is saying that Saudi pro clubs are now exploring the chance of signing Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. We know that the Saudi clubs are what's the word? Well, they're trying to improve their league, aren't they? They're trying to bring in these big players. Yeah, they're making moves at the moment. Whether you are into the Saudi league or not, I personally don't watch it and don't really have any interest in it. But, to bring in people like Ronaldo, to bring in even people like Ruben Neves from Wolves, who could have easily gone to another decent club around Europe, just shows the level of investment that the Saudi clubs are willing to make. And the story goes on to say that Casemiro has emerged as one of the top targets for the Saudi Pro League in 2024, with a January offer to Manchester United possible. Now, I want you guys to let me know in the comment section. Obviously, we spoke about Varane this morning, who's another player who apparently is one of the top targets for the Saudi League in 2024. I want you guys to let me know, would you sell Casemiro and Varane if the right offer came in? When I say the right offer, I'm talking like 40 million for Varane and maybe 50 million for Casemiro, something around then. Would you accept that type of money? Me personally, I think if it was as part of a new ownership, as in Paul Mitchell, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Jean-Claude Blanc, I would be open to it. And the reason I'd be open to it is because we are still going to be in financial difficulties under Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of millions to spend. We're still going to have financial fair play because of this debt that's not going to be removed. And the reason I say that then is that, Varane and Casemiro are probably two of our best players, but they're both getting old. They're both not going to be here probably in 1 or 2 years. Their contracts expire, I think, in 2 years. Both of them probably won't get new contracts at 33, 34. And they're not players for the future. Like, we need people, in their early 20s in those positions. We need, like Arsenal have they've got Saliba and Gabriel, and they've got people like Odegaard. Like, they've got all of these young players. You can see that Arsenal team just constantly improving. Whereas you look at ours and you think, our best midfielder is Casemiro. He's 31. 2 years left on his contract. He's gone. Our best defender is probably Varane. 30 years of age, 2 years left on his contract, injury prone. You look through the spine of that team, which is already dysfunctional and not really getting very good results. And our best players are, even Bruno, he's 30 this year. Now, I know players can go into their mid-30s, but the fact that Varane could only play 1 game a week, if that, and Casemiro's now got hamstring injuries and all the rest of it, I think that we almost do need to have this reset, and I don't think we ever really had it. I think there's a lot of players that need to go, not because they're not good enough, but because we need to start bringing in younger people. We need to start planning for the future. Whether that be Jean-Claude Todibo to replace Varane, whether that be someone like, just off the top of my head, Thuram from Nice to replace Casemiro. Like, we need to bring in these younger profile players who are going to be here for the next 10 years. And if we are going to stick with Erik ten Hag, which I think we should, we need to build a team around these younger people, whether it's Kobe Mainoo, whether it's Pellistri, Ahmad, all of these young people that we have at our fingertips. They need to start getting the priority. But let me know what you guys think about that one. Obviously, the Saudi League is very, very up for it at the moment. So Lumen says maybe the group dinner date after the win will motivate them. Yeah, hopefully it does. Let's have a look. Amelia says, I hope they buy players who can play Erik ten Hag ball. Lumen says, Kieran, are you with Rashford or Mark G? I assume you're talking about the thing on Twitter. I did see that. I don't know, to be honest. I'll say this. I think that Rashford is one of our best players, but why are these football players getting on Twitter? I just think it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. It's the similar situation to Sancho, isn't it, really? Like, I don't know. Maybe he has a bit of a point, but at the same time, like, do you not have better things to do, really? Maybe it's not him, maybe it's his team. I don't know. I've seen lots of people talking about it, and lots of people have differing opinions on that whole situation. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, though, isn't it, that a professional footballer being paid 350 grand a week for one of the biggest clubs in world football is calling out a YouTuber on Twitter. I mean, that would have never happened under Fergie. That would have never happened like those many years ago, would it? And it just shows how the times have changed. And it maybe does just show that a lot of the mentality within this Manchester United squad is maybe not how it should be. You look at people like Kevin De Bruyne, you look at people like Bernardo Silva. Like, do you see them piping up on Twitter? I mean, does Kevin De Bruyne even have Twitter? Let's have a look. I mean, like, these top players, these elite players playing for Pep Guardiola, you don't see them piping up on Twitter, do you? So the last time he posted on Twitter, Kevin De Bruyne, was on the 18th of August saying he was injured. So he hasn't posted on Twitter for 3 months, De Bruyne, and that was just to say he was injured. I mean, before that, it was like, he literally, his pictures were just, his posts were just pictures of him on the pitch, and that was it. And that's like one a month for the last year. Like, it looks really professional. It looks how a proper footballer should conduct themselves. I don't know. I just think it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest. I do. But it's pretty mad, though. Like, it's crazy. I just think it's crazy. I do that football players are calling out people who talk about football in their bedroom on YouTube. Like, I just think it's a bit strange, to be honest. But it is what it is, isn't it? Obviously, everyone's up for their own opinions. Muiz says we need Chiesa and Adeyemi. Yes, I would like Adeyemi, and yes, I would like Chiesa. Mida says we have been missing 14 first squad players from pre-season. City lost 3 games without Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah, exactly. Saf says Sancho and Rashford are the same. They have the same mentality. Played his socks off for a new contract, and it will never happen again with Rashford. Mark my words. I would agree with you on that. I would. I think he did play for a new contract. I think it was too much of a coincidence that his best ever season was the year that his contract was coming to an end. He gets his 350 grand a week deal, and then he just completely starts moaning. And I just don't rate that, to be honest. Lumen says, Kieran, is it true the Glazers want 8 billion for the club? I don't even know anymore. I've gone past the point of even trying to guess how much money the Glazers want for Manchester United. Your guess is as good as mine. I think they don't even know themselves, to be honest. Fred says Dortmund, Adeyemi. Yes, mate, honestly, he would be an incredible signing. He really, really would. Right, let's see what else we've got to look at on the show. Everyone smash a like on the video, by the way, and subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't already. The same story about the director of football and CEO is saying the following: Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are expected to put forward a substantial commitment to improving Manchester United's facilities, and it's likely their manner of operation in the transfer market will change, pivoting away from United's much criticised transfer strategy of the post-Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill years. So they're going to try and do what they used to do, bringing through these more exciting young players, and hopefully that will work. Comebacks King says, hopefully Newcastle go out. Richie says, I wouldn't be surprised if YouTubers get sued for libel. Some comments I've seen and lies on some channels are totally out of order. I have thought that before, to be honest, But I guess the thing is that I think a lot of the time it's just people's opinions. that's the grey area with stuff like that, isn't it? You know, a lot of this is just conversation and people giving opinions. But I get what you mean. If this was in America, like, yeah, they probably would be suing people. But I think in England it's a little bit different, isn't it? With like, you know, suing people for defamation and all those types of things. But I don't really understand it that much. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me on the show this evening. I'm going to go and watch the Newcastle-Dortmund game now. I will be back at 8:30 a.m. for your morning show. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as well, I want you guys to let me know in the comments section if there's any other types of content that you want us to do. Because at the moment, like, we've literally just been doing these kind of, you know, chat shows morning and evening every day for 6 months. But I do want to start changing things up a bit. So I don't know, maybe you want to see some like call-in type shows. Maybe you want to see other people come on, so it's like a conversation with 3 or 4 people. Let me know what you guys think. And if there's anybody who does want to get involved in the channel in some capacity, maybe come on a, you know, like a fan 4 people on the show type thing. Yeah, just get involved in the comment section. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all in the morning. Have a nice evening, everyone. Speak tomorrow.